In 1942, Nazi Germany controlled much of the European continent. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, 130,000 people, including scientists, engineers, and construction workers, with a $2 billion budget, were engaged in a secret project that would forever change the world. Most of these workers were unaware of the project's ultimate goal due to the high level of secrecy. This initiative would become known as the Manhattan Project, a program focused on the research and development of the first nuclear weapons. From 1942 to 1946, the project was led by Major General Leslie Groves of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, while nuclear physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer was the director of the Los Alamos laboratory that designed the bombs. Groves and Oppenheimer decided that for security reasons, they needed to establish a centralized secret research laboratory in a remote location. This would become known as Project Y. Oppenheimer favored a location in New Mexico at a site he knew well, a flat mesa near Santa Fe, New Mexico, which was the site of a private boys' school. The Los Alamos laboratory was built on the site of the school, taking over some of its buildings. At the Los Alamos laboratory, Oppenheimer gathered the best physicists of the time, calling them the luminaries. Initially, the team at Los Alamos focused on creating a plutonium-based gun-type fission weapon nicknamed Thin Man. However, by April 1944, they realized that this type of plutonium had a high rate of spontaneous fission due to plutonium-240, which could trigger a premature detonation. Oppenheimer then reorganized a laboratory and orchestrated a successful effort on an alternative design proposed by John von Neumann, an implosion-type nuclear weapon, which was called Fatman, and a gun-type design using uranium-235, which became known as Little Boy. While the sense of accomplishment for Oppenheimer and his luminaries was significant in that their work paid off, they never knew who could be watching. Concerns about whether the complex Fat Man design would work led to a decision to conduct the first nuclear test. Prior to this test, there was also some concern among scientists that a nuclear explosion might initiate a reaction that could ignite the atmosphere, based on the theoretical possibility that nuclear explosion could generate temperatures high enough to cause a fusion reaction in nitrogen atoms in the atmosphere, leading to a catastrophic chain reaction. However, after detailed calculations and discussions, they concluded that such an outcome was extremely unlikely. So they went on with the test. The code name Trinity was assigned by Oppenheimer himself, who, along with some 425 people, were present on the weekend of the test. They were told to lie face down on the ground and wear black goggles to protect their eyes from the intense flash of the explosion. On July 16, 1945, at 5:29 a.m., the United States Army conducted the first ever detonation of a nuclear weapon. The test was of an implosion-designed plutonium bomb, nicknamed the Gadget. While watching the explosion, Oppenheimer remembered a line from the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." On the other side of the world, U.S. President Harry Truman was at the Potsdam Conference in the Soviet occupation zone of Germany when he received the news through a coded message from Secretary of War Henry Stimson, informing him that the test had been successful beyond expectations. This crucial information greatly influenced the discussions at the Potsdam Conference, especially in how Truman handled diplomatic negotiations with the Soviet Union about ending the war and shaping the post-war world. When Truman informed Stalin of the atomic bomb, he said that the United States had a new weapon of unusual destructive force. But Stalin had full knowledge of the atomic bomb's development from Soviet spy networks inside the Manhattan Project, and told Truman at the conference that he hoped Truman would make good use of it against the Japanese. On July 26, 1945, the United States, Britain, and China issued the Potsdam Declaration, outlining Japan's terms of surrender. The declaration came with a firm ultimatum: we will not deviate from them. There are no alternatives. We shall brook no delay. The declaration demanded the elimination of military influence in governance, limited Japanese sovereignty to the main islands, and called for complete disarmament, emphasizing democratic reforms and human rights. It also outlined terms for economic rehabilitation and the past 3 million leaflets describing the declaration over Japan, even though picking up enemy propaganda leaflets and listening to foreign radio broadcasts was illegal in Japan. The terms of the declaration sparked intense debate within the Japanese government. After receiving the declaration, Foreign Minister Togo quickly convened a meeting with Prime Minister Suzuki and Cabinet Secretary Sakumazu. Sakumazu noted that there was a consensus on the need to accept the declaration. However, despite leaning towards acceptance, Togo found the terms vague regarding Japan's future government structure, disarmament processes, and the fate of accused war criminals. He also hoped that the Soviet Union might mediate negotiations with the Western allies to clarify and possibly. According to a foreign ministry official, Hirohito immediately expressed that he found the declaration acceptable in principle. Meanwhile, the Supreme Council for the Direction of the War met the same day to discuss the declaration. War Minister Anami, General Yamizu, and Admiral Toyode opposed accepting the declaration, argued that the terms were too dishonorable, and advised for the Japanese government to reject it openly. On the other hand, Suzuki, Togo, and Admiral Yanai were inclined to accept the declaration, but agreed that clarification was needed over the status of the emperor. Ultimately, the council accepted Togo's proposal to delay their response until they received a reply from the Soviets. Suzuki stated that the Japanese policy toward the declaration was damaged by firebombing raids, which reduced its value as a target for demonstrating the power of the atomic bomb. Tokyo was also the seat of the emperor and the location of high-ranking military officers. Preserving these individuals was crucial for negotiations and to facilitate a surrender. Initially considered as a target, Kyoto was removed from the list due to its cultural importance and replaced by Nagasaki. The targets chosen for the atomic bombs were Hiroshima, Kokura, Niigata, and risks during takeoff. His assistant, Second Lieutenant Morris Jepson, removed the safety devices only 30 minutes before reaching the target area. 3 other B-29s flew about an hour ahead, acting as weather scouts. Enola Gay reached Hiroshima with clear skies at 8:09 local time, at which point Tibbets initiated the bomb run and handed control to his bombardier, Major Thomas Farabee. 15, Little Boy, which contained approximately 64 kilograms or 140 pounds of uranium-235, was released. It took 44.4 seconds to fall from the aircraft, flying at about 9.4 kilometers until it detonated approximately 580 meters above the city. At the moment of detonation, the temperature within the fireball itself reached to over 1 million degrees Celsius. Matching temperatures found at the sun's core, this intense heat is generated by the nuclear fission reaction. Within the bomb, the fireball expanded rapidly, reaching a diameter of 280 meters or 306 yards. Within just 1 second, the heat rays emitted from a fireball raised ground temperatures near the hypocenter to about 4,000 degrees Celsius, which is far beyond the melting point of many materials. This immense heat caused immediate devastating fires and contributed to the widespread destruction in the city. The radius of total destruction was about 1.6 kilometers, with fires spreading over 11 square kilometers. Affected by crosswinds, the bomb veered off its intended target, the Aioi Bridge, missing by about 240 meters, and detonated directly above the Schumer Surgical Clinic instead.